Welcome back, everybody, to our Dancing with the Stars recap crossover. Apparently, this has been getting enough positive feedback that we started doing a little bit of a crossover with the Bachelor podcast we have. We had some contestants over here, but as it so happens, people like it, so we'll probably continue it. Maybe even do it with some seasons that don't have any Bachelor contestants on there. But we had Joey, we had Jenn, and because I'm a New England Patriots fan, I shoehorned Danny into our contestants that we're giving an overview to. However, Jenn went home, and so we went out to everybody and asked them, well, who do you want to hear? And people said Chandler, they said Steven, and they said everybody. And since it's 11:15 at night, everybody is off the table. So for tonight's episode, we're doing Joey, Chandler, right. Steven, and Danny.
Next week are the semifinals, and so because there is no Golden Bachelorette to recap, I think that we can do everyone on the semifinals. I think that's fair. All 5 couples.
That is fair. So let's go ahead and just remind everybody what we're kind of doing here and how we structure this. Amy and I are amateur ballroom dancers. We have been for about 12 years. We've won a couple of amateur championships. So we kind of have like a vague clue about what's going on, right? I only watch the dances, don't see any of the scoring. Amy watches the entire episode, including all the judges' commentary and scoring.
As of this week.
Yeah, but you always seem to know what the judges are doing and saying. So those are the contexts. We're just going to give our opinions and kind of discuss a little bit about the details of some of the dances where we think it's relevant and appropriate. So with that, let's start off with themes. What the heck were the themes? Because I was a little confused without the context.
Mm-hmm.
I gather it's the 500th episode.
I was going to say, yes. So it's the 500th episode. And so the one of the main portions of this week's episode is that each couple was going to perform an interpretation of an iconic dance from previous season. And so in the way that it is,
that makes so much more sense now.
Yes. Yeah. And so it appears the way that it's packaged, it seems as though the star identified the performance, but I don't know how accurate that actually is. But yes, so all of these performances were sort of inspired by performances from winners of previous seasons, or just again.
So were they exact replicas, or were they just inspired by?
Inspired by.
All right. Okay, that makes
so
a lot.
Like one of the dances, actually. Chandler's Argentine tango was inspired by Derek's winning dance with one of his partners, Kelly Pickler. And so
that's a dangerous choice to pick that. anything Derek has done. Oof.
I know. Okay. So it was very cool. One of the dances was Julianne Hough's dance as well. And then another was Lindsay Arnold, who is the sister of Riley, who's in the audience.
That explains that. Give me what was going on with these. Okay, I've been dancing a long time. I have never heard of an instant cha-cha or an instant rumba.
Okay.
What the heck was going on here? Because they looked like regular cha-chas and rumbas to me.
Okay, so here's the deal with the instant dances. Apparently at some point during the week, they knew the instant dance was coming. And they drew from a bucket of dances that they have performed before blind. Okay. So they kind of like, blah, 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 put their hand in, identified a dance to the camera, basically. And then on stage, it was revealed what dance they were doing. And then immediately after, what song they were doing. They had 5 minutes, basically from then through the commercial break, to identify what costumes they were wearing, listen to their song, and then put together whatever choreography they were going to have. And so we do see how they trained for this, but it was literally on the spot. And it really, puts the stars to the test to like not be so practiced, to like actually know the dances pretty well.
I got to rescore all of these dances with that context. So that actually explains a lot. Because so what I was thinking when we were hearing all these instant dances, one of the things that seemed to be a trend and a theme was that there were heavily pro led. Specifically, you look at Joey and Danny in particular, there wasn't a whole lot of dancing going on. It was a lot of, I'm just going to follow my pro around the dance floor and sort of just stand there looking pretty. And I was a little confused. Like, you had 2 weeks to prepare these dances. Like, why do they seem so weak by comparison? That makes a lot of sense now. Okay.
And actually, we're going to disagree on the critique there, but so
interesting.
Basically, with every package of like what they showed while the pros and stars were like they got like a few minutes of practice on the floor, is what they did to train. And basically, it's like what we do, that they just drilled the dances that they've done, and like they just drilled them and tried to like get patterns down, get, you know, you'll see recycled routine moves from. Especially, I mean, we've been watching Danny and Joey, so it was very identifiable when they were reusing things from previous routines. But that's how they prepped. They just drilled all the dances that they've done, and you could hear some of them saying like, "Oh, God," like Joey, like, I hope it's not rumba. I hope it's not rumba," and that's what he got. And so anyway, it was that part was reminiscent, and that's something that we do before we go to a wedding or go on vacation. Like, what kinds of dances might we expect to hear? Let's drill those. Like, social dancing is a lot of what Chris and I now train for, is just being able to, when a song comes on, be able to dance for the full 3-minute song without stopping and perform it well. And so it's much harder than doing a routine. But it's more true to ballroom dance. So I really appreciated it because it just felt more authentic.
Yeah. So here's kind of the dirty little secret about dancing. And that is that every dancer has a set grouping of what like comfort patterns, right? Like, if you were to actually go out there and you were to watch me dance for like we go on vacation, we dance like every single night. If you were to sit there and watch us every single night, you would notice that at the beginning of any evening, I actually start with almost the same patterns or routines. Or if things get a little tight on the dance floor, or if I'm doing a song for the first time I've done in several days, you could actually notice that I'm following a very set pattern to get myself warmed up and kind of into a comfortable spot. And then once I'm eased into the music, I'm eased into the kind of situation, the dance floor, I've assessed the crowd, and I kind of know where my boundaries are and how much space I have. Then I start to mix in more like ad hoc and truly more social dancing. And so these pros all have like dozens of patterns that they just automatically can go to, that they have comfort. We have many patterns that we will fall into, and we are amateurs that just dance socially now, and having competed in, probably the last time we competed was probably in 2018, right? And so the pros have a lot of these. And so that's sort of like dirty little secret, is that they're not making this up on the spot. And those that perform a lot have also done a ton of different intros and a ton of different like lifts and tricks. And so what you end up having is like, if we were to be in this situation, like, oh, hey, you got a smooth dance. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to immediately grab our bolero intro, right? I'm going to, we're going to go and do the heat routine that we did in Constitution State for whatever the dance itself is. So now we got an intro, we've got the pattern, and then at the end or towards the end, I'm going to throw in the lift from like our bachata from Beach Ball, right? And there you go. Yeah. Real quick, recycled everything, beautiful routine.
Yeah. It is a lot of lather, rinse, repeat when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, we can definitely get more into that when we get to the instant dances. So let's start off with the 500th episode celebration dances.
Where so you want to do the style dances, or do you want to do them by person? How are we doing them today? We're just gonna do all the 500s, and then we'll come back around to the 500s,
and then we'll do because I think they're scored differently, and they each got scored, by the way. So there were 2 rounds of scores.
Okay,
just FYI.
All right. So then let's start off with our remaining Bachelor contestant, Joey, who did contemporary. So,
yes.
Let me just say, I don't have a lot of super jumping for the rafters commentary this week. I thought everybody took a step backwards this week. I thought everybody was worse this week than I've seen them in previous weeks. For this stage of the competition, I would have liked to have seen more across the board. We already know that like contemporary is not a dance style. This routine itself was beautiful. The song was fine. I kind of got from a performative aspect what they were going for. But at the end of the day, there was not a lot of dancing, like really no dancing. They had 2 weeks to prepare this routine, and it just sort of felt like a bunch of lifts and tricks. You saw a really
That's
athletic
what
guy.
contemporary is.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a really athletic guy catching a really athletic girl that weighs 90 pounds a few times and lifting her up a few times. Like, I just wasn't impressed really for a dancing competition. And I would have liked to have seen more across the board.
So I'll tell you, this, I was expecting more from Joey. I watched the original performance that this was based on, and it was so beautiful. Like I couldn't tell who was the pro and who was the star. And it was really, really good. And where things that Joey has gotten praise for, and we've praised Joey for, are his ability to really get into character and to kind of go with the musicality of it. And this was one of those performances for me that the performance fell flat. And I felt like I didn't feel his emotion as much as I typically do. That's like the only real critique I could give it. I thought, they're two beautiful people. They clearly trust each other a lot. They have a great partnership. But that was one piece where I was like, like this doesn't feel like what we've seen from Joey in the last couple of weeks in terms of like that performance aspect of it.
Yep. At the end of the day, timing was fine. Musicality was fine, but there wasn't a lot of dancing. There was a lot of lifts and tricks. The lifts and tricks might have been somewhat impressive, but I feel like they were less impressive than I thought the trick that they did in the instant routine was far more impressive, that they did after 5 minutes was far more impressive than the lifts and tricks that they did in this routine. So all around, it was a fine performance. And that's what I'll say. There was nothing wrong with it per se, but there was also nothing really exciting about it.
Okay. Do you want to know the judges' score? Or do you want to provide a score?
Well, do you want me to score it first?
Sure. What's your score?
7. I got to paddle people. Now the danger comes out.
Well, they received 2 9s and a 10. The 10 was from Derek.
Are you out of your tree? They got 2 9s and a 10 for that performance?
Yeah. Beautifully choreographed, well performed.
Oh my God.
Though beautiful, lacked a bit of rawness. Joey's lifts were more solid than last week.
Get out of here. Oh my God. Like we're not even trying to judge this thing fairly at this point, are we? All right. But shall we move on to Danny before I literally just throw my paddle?
Let's go to Danny. So Danny and Whitney performed a quick step, which was inspired by Helio Castroneves and Julianne Hough from season 5 to Hey Pachuco.
All right. So he's wearing Pascal's green suit. Right? I mean, green suits
like making suit from Dumb and Dumber, actually.
Yeah. The green suits are apparently that's the thing. You had said that was it last week, 2 weeks ago, that you think green suits are making a comeback. And then this week we got a green suit from Grant over in the Bachelor thing. And then we get a green suit over here. Anyway, so quick step, I am not a huge fan of the quick step. That being said, I've been critical of Danny. Okay.
But before we start, can I give you a little bit of background?
Sure.
So one thing that Whitney said is that Danny's done a lot of like serious dances and was happy to get an opportunity to have him be a little bit light and be more fun. And Danny talked about how this felt like in a way well suited to him because of all of the quick feet that he needed for football and like doing all of those agility drills. And they used some of that like agility footwork that he sort of like led her through in their practice in their routine.
In fact, actually knowing that he's a football player, and knowing some of the drills and routines they go through, it was kind of not surprising that that's where the source of that was, or the origination. But yeah, so look, I've been critical of Danny. I think this routine is another example of why I've been critical. And he's a New England Patriot. He won Super Bowls. He scored the tying touchdown in the major comeback, the greatest comeback in all of football history. I want to love this guy on this show, but he's just making it so hard. He's so heavy. He's so inelegant and lacks finesse and lacks grace. His frame was atrocious. I mean, atrocious is not fair. I need to see that frame further extended out. Just when you look at Whitney and him, Whitney's like arced back and he's sort of like kind of up straight. And then as you saw throughout the routine, he starts kind of coming forward. So at one point they almost look like this when they're dancing. It's like, oh, come on, dude. You guys, should look more like a what's the drinks you like? Not martini. Is it martinis? Martini, those martini glasses. That's what you kind of look like in a dance like this. We both sort of arced back. And he just kept kind of curling forward. His footwork was rough. He's just heavy footed. I mean, there were a lot. He was ahead of the timing a lot. There was just a lot of problems here, and he looked like he was having fun, right? From a performance. Now, I don't like the music, and I don't really like that genre of the whole time period that they were going for. But like, if you are into that sort of thing, it probably was really kind of fun and cool. I thought the inclusion of the props, the hats, was like a nice little touch because it did demonstrate some extra choreography and demonstrated some extra sort of agility that was nice. I thought adding in the fast feet was kind of cool because it is a quick step. I didn't like that they included the two couples that came in, or the people that came in and danced with them. I thought that was just unnecessary and weird. But as a whole, it was just another fine dance from a guy who I feel like should be better and more graceful than this. And yeah, I just didn't love it. And I'm gonna continue to maintain that he's nowhere near as good as he is being judged. Right? The scores he's gotten in the past are way too high.
So what's your score? Where
they rank him this? 6.
A 6.
I thought it was
turn
atrocious.
That paddle upside down. He got 3 straight 9s. You're kidding me.
He got 3 9s? Oh my, okay, next dance.
The feedback,
forget
it. Derek said their quick step was bubbly and refreshing. Bruno complimented Danny's light footwork, and I was laughing when you were calling it heavy.
Light footwork?
Though he noted that Danny started on the wrong foot on the stairs and had some issues with his frame.
Unbelievable. 9s? That
9s.
Is far where, I mean, they overjudge Joey. This is like, all right. Let's go to Steven.
Steven, yep. So Steven and Riley performed a Viennese waltz that was inspired by Charlie D'Amelio and Mark Ballas, season 31, to Glimpse of Us. And this was, Steven had chosen this because he thought it was, really, beautiful and elegant dance. And this is something that he also kind of wanted a little bit of redemption on because he had gotten critiques about his frame before. And they actually had Mark Ballas come in and do some work with him on his frame and technique. So his frame and also hit like his footwork. So that was like a big part of their prep for this dance.
Interesting. He's not going to like my feedback then.
Go for it.
Well, so look, I thought the choreography was beautiful. Viennese waltz is my favorite of the smooth dances. It is probably the hardest of the smooth dances. It is just a beautiful dance that takes a lot of skill. It's very fast, but when executed well, it's beautiful and it's so much fun. He being a gymnast has a lot of extra dexterity and athleticism and presumably some fast twitch muscles that really make you feel like this is a dance that he can execute on. I thought his frame was okay, significantly better than Danny's. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more extension, but I did think it was fine. But I feel like you're a gymnast. You have a lot of flexibility. You could get that open more. And so I just would have liked to have seen it more. I thought the footwork, the fog was doing some work here for him. It was, because there was definitely some footwork that I didn't love. But again, it wasn't bad. Like, I thought all around, it was a pretty good performance. Great choreography, fun little song. He looked good. He tried. The frame could have been better, but wasn't terrible. The footwork could have been better, but wasn't terrible. Where I think my biggest criticism is that he had a little bit of, we'll say, Chris arms. So there's two kind of things that happen with arms, right? You kind of, when you get arm comes out to the side, right? And you like, there's a gracefulness of how you're going to do like side arms. And then there's the over the top arm, right? And I'm always halfway decent at these arms. And these arms are absolutely atrocious whenever I do them. And when you looked at him, it was like, oh, we're kindred spirits. His over the top arms were just like mine, stiff, weird, hands in the wrong position, doesn't look nice. But when he's doing any of these side arms, it's, where you're kind of leading with the elbow, they looked significantly nicer. So that's my big criticism, is we got to get the over the top arms better. He and I both. We're gonna go find a pro that can teach us both how to do those better. Because it felt like I was looking at a video of myself, Mike, and I'm like, oh God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
all around,
I agree. I thought it was a little stiff, but I thought it was nice. It was well done. All right, so let's see your score.
7.
Okay. Well, he got 2 10s and a 9.
Oh my.
The 9 was from Bruno.
Now we're just in grade inflation at this point, right? Like they're down to the last few. So like you start at like 5s and 6s, and every week you like your base goes up by half a point.
No one's earned a perfect score. So this feels like the longest time I feel like that we've not gotten a perfect score.
This is insane grading. I just want to put that. So okay. So what were their
basically their feedback?
Their
feedback was that he finally found the lyrical side of dance, and what Bruno was talking about was like basically using his body and like kind of like moving with the music. Carrie Ann said the world needed this performance right now, and Derek was talking about how sometimes scoring is yes, of course, about technique, but also scoring is about what a performance makes you feel, and this made him feel something truly beautiful tonight. And so
yeah, I don't even understand that at all. Like, but that's okay. We can. He's better dancer than me, so I'll just let him get away with that one. Shall we move over to Chandler Kinney?
Yes, Chandler and Brandon performed an Argentine tango inspired by Kelly Pickler and Derek Huff's performance, season 16, to Para Te. What'd you think of this one?
Okay, so this is my first opportunity seeing Chandler dance. People have been saying that she is the front runner, could win this better than Joey. So I came into this with high expectations of what I was going to see. Now, I don't know what the order was on the show, but
this is the order.
Okay, all right. So I watched them where I watched the instance first, and then I watched the 500th one after. And so the first thing I saw her do was the instant cha-cha. And I also didn't realize at that point that they only had 5 minutes. So take this with a grain of salt. And when I saw her do her instant cha-cha, I didn't get the hype. I thought it was good, but like not so far above other things that we've seen. Then I saw the Argentine tango, and I was like, oh, I get it. Like this was a fantastic performance. Argentine tango is not really a dance that because there's no timing related to it and stuff like that. I find it a hard dance to grade. But the lines were good. I thought there was a lot of like lifts and tricks, but they were lifts and tricks that had elements of still steps in them, which is what makes them really kind of interesting to watch as a dancer. Because they weren't just like, oh, pro lifts her up in the air, drops her down, we move on with life. Like she had to do a lot of body control, and she had to still have positioning and timing as part of these, which I thought was fantastically executed. I thought her footwork for the most part was pretty solid. There was a few moments where I thought it could have been a little bit more crisp. I think thematically it was, and musicality was just absolutely on point. And the one criticism I had was there were a few of her turns that felt a little bit like she was just whipping herself around. And I felt like there could have been a little bit more tighter control, like really turning with intentionality, right? And really placing her feet. There was just a few times where it just felt like she's like, I'm just going to whip around and my pro is just going to catch me and take me where I need to be. But if that pro wasn't there, I'm not convinced she would have stopped herself cleanly and elegantly on her own. But I think that's nitpicking, given that she's never danced before, or I don't know what her background is, but given to her. So all around best performance of the 8 performances I watched. It was easily the best. And I don't think it was particularly close. Score. 9.
Whoa. Okay. Well, she got 10s across the board, and first perfect score of the season. I thought this was so well deserved. I mean, Bruno said he was breathless from their first split drop, and I felt the exact same way. Like, I was like holding my breath the entire time. Like, it was so intense, and like you felt that through the performance. It was so like you said it so well. Like, their lifts and tricks were still intricate. I mean, she really killed it. I thought it was so good. So good. I like an Argentine tango that I really, really liked watching.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Derek said he preferred their routine over his own.
Now he's being kind.
Well, you didn't see theirs, but
that guy is
the choreography,
one of the greatest dancers to ever live. So yeah, sure.
He thought the choreography was really great. That it was really intense, and he had said with his, it was like so sharp. Like the lines were so sharp, but he really appreciated like the like intensity of the choreography that came through. Okay, let's go to the instant dances.
Instant dances. Going back to Joey.
Yes.
We get ourselves a rumba. What he did not want, is that what you were saying?
He did not want, he said, I don't want the rumba. It's so slow. So if I make a mistake, you're really going to see it. That was like his whole thing.
I want to just say, now that I know that they only had 5 minutes to prepare, I'm regrading all of these. So I'm going to regrade them on the fly.
Each star randomly drew one dance style from the 4 they had performed in the early weeks of the competition. Then they had to choose their costumes on air and then perform their dance live in 5 minutes.
Yeah, seems challenging. Okay, so Joey's rumba. Well, I mean, let's just be honest. He was basically standing around while Jenna danced around him, and he executed on 2 or 3 things that we've seen him do in the past. Now, I was critical of his rumba originally. Remember, I said like when he steps off to one side, when he does like the open break to one side versus the other, or like the left breaks, one side was significantly stronger than the other. I saw improvement. I thought it's much closer to sort of being equal. I did still think that there was a little bit of stiffness there, but I saw improvement, and that's relevant, right? He obviously, in every single dance, he's got a wonderful spinning step that they put in every single dance because it's flashy, it's fun, it's impressive, it's technically difficult, and he's just good at it. But again, like we've seen that. I thought the real true highlight of this dance, and it's going to, I think, be the social media like challenge of the week, was that insane turn where Jenna is like, it looks like she's basically like on rollerblades, right? Standing up, sort of sliding around the floor. I don't know how these pros come up with this stuff or train for this stuff. I don't know how they manage to execute that with the limited amount of time, but that was unbelievably impressive. But at the end of the day, this really was Jenna doing a lot of work and Joey sort of just following her around and just doing some basic steps.
It's so interesting. I didn't see it that way.
No, interesting. Okay.
I was so impressed. And I watched it. I think I watched it 3 times. I watched it twice just on YouTube, and then I just watched the episode. And so I was actually really impressed. I thought his hip movement was good. I thought it was sexy. Like, I thought like it embodied rumba. I did like yes, there wasn't a whole lot of like dancing. But I think this was kind of like ripped off of, you saw some clear patterns that they've used in the previous rumba. And I thought, to your point, he executed them better than in the previous. So I really enjoyed this. I was like, damn, 5 minutes and you pulled this off. Like I was impressed.
Yep.
But with that being said, what did you think? What's your score for this?
So keep in mind, I'm grading them knowing that this was a like 5-minute prep time.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that goes into their scoring too, but who knows?
Okay. 8.
Okay. They got 9s across the board.
Okay. I if I'm within one of the judges, I'm not going to fight with them too much, but it still feels like grade inflation. It still feels too high. But yeah, I mean, look, it was a good routine. There was some really technical, and it's not like Joey did nothing here. By the way, can we just take a quick detour? I learned some like really, really disturbing news this past week. Apparently, Jenna Johnson is married. Crushed my entire
I'm sorry you had some heartbreak, but yes,
it's just complete heartbreak. Complete heartbreak.
She is indeed married. Yeah.
Yep.
Val is her husband.
Who's one of the pros on this show as well. Got eliminated already, right? Oh man. Yep. Real tragedy. All right. Danny.
Let's go to Danny and Whitney. They selected an instant jive and dance to Good Golly Miss Molly.
So again, without the context,
this is, I think, their third time doing a jive.
And that was the first answer. When I saw jive, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? 3 times? Like now they're just cheating, right? So now with context, I mean, obviously it makes more sense, but this just felt like it was set up. Like you did jive twice and now you get it as your instant. You have so much material to pull from it. It's the only dance you've done more than once. I mean, this is, you want to talk about luck, and the dance gods favoring you. This is what this was for Danny. That being said, okay. He looked uncomfortable and he looked really heavy-footed. However, I have been very critical of Danny's inability to get on timing, right? Anytime that they've had to kind of detach or anything like that, he tends to look uncomfortable and he tends to kind of fall off the timing. There was definitely timing issues here, but given the shortened amount of time they had to prepare this, it could have been a lot worse. I thought the routine was generally an interesting routine. I thought that there was more required memorization of the routine and more required actual dancing than what Joey had to do. So with all that being said, 8.
Okay. You're right on target. They got 8s across the board.
Finally, the judges.
You were more complimentary of Danny than they were.
Oh, really? Okay.
The
I said he was heavy-footed, looked uncomfortable, and he's off timing. Like that was complimentary.
Yeah. Timing issues. Yada yada.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I agree with all of that. Okay. So shall we go on to Steven?
Yes. Steven and Riley also did a jive to Love is Embarrassing by Olivia Rodrigo.
So
they were excited about this. They were pumped. This is what they wanted.
Yeah. So I have a lot of feelings on this dance, and I'll try to make them relatively quick here. I didn't like the arms, but I thought that this was a dance that he really seemed to enjoy and embody. This was a dance that had a lot of actual choreography. They spent a lot of time detached. There were some slight timing issues. You saw him peek over at Riley a few times to be like, oh, what's my next step? But on the whole, the amount of actual choreography that was done, the amount that they were detached, he was not able to just like let his pro lead him around. Compared to both Joey and Danny, I thought that, I mean, in terms of just the quality of the amount of actual dancing and memorization of a routine that was required far exceeded anything that Joey and Danny did in this. And that alone says a lot. He looked like he was having a good time. It looked fun. Wasn't the most technically interesting, but it definitely played well from a musicality perspective. Again, I'm going to come back to a very similar criticism that I had about his first dance. Didn't love the arms. But outside of the arms, I have mostly positive things to say. I love this, and I don't particularly love the jive, but I loved this entire performance.
What's your score?
9.
Wow, great. He got a 9 and 2 8s.
Really? What were the
mostly due
criticisms?
to timing issues.
Yeah.
But they did, praise his performance, that he did have a lot of fun. There was one mistake that they kept referring to, but didn't call out what the mistake was. And Riley admitted that it was actually her. It was her fault, whatever the mistake was. I wasn't paying close enough attention to really notice what it was. But yeah, two 8s and a 9.
It feels like they are grading the timing issues worse for some contestants than others, because like his timing issues were they were there and they were noticeable, but they were far less than Danny's. Danny's timing issues are atrocious, and it just doesn't. I don't see how where that scoring comes from.
Right.
Especially I think that they are way over. They've been overscoring Danny the entire season. And this just feels like another day and another week in that chain. So
he's definitely a favorite for sure.
Yep. All right, so wrap it up with our final dance that we're going to cover this evening. Chandler, Kinney.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Chandler and Brandon picked an instant cha-cha to Apple by Charlie XCX. What was fun about this is that Chandler definitely knew the song and she was so excited, where Brandon had no idea. And one thing that Brandon said after the performance is he was realizing after they had gotten ready that they actually didn't prep for enough music. And so there were several, a couple of counts at the end that they just had no choreography, that they just had to completely improvise in the moment in a way that beyond even the instant cha-cha. So the ending portion was completely true, lead and follow.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, look, I love the cha-cha. We don't dance it very much anymore because in our circles, there's just not a lot of cha-cha music gets played.
I think it's really hard to dance. I think it's a really difficult dance.
The thing about the cha-cha, and here's Chris's coaching corner on the on a dance for this evening, right? The cha-cha is a flirty dance. It's a dance where it's like the woman hasn't really decided yet, is this my guy? She's kind of looking out into the crowd, and then the man pulls her back, and then she's kind of flirts a little, and then her kind of gaze starts to wander, and then she pulls back, and it's just such a a flirty, fun, sexy dance. It's Cuban in origin, right? So it actually was brought over to the United States from Cuba in the 1950s, became a really big thing in the US in the 1960s. And but originally it was all done to basically Cuban music. Now it's done to more kind of the same kind of just general Latin music. But I love the cha-cha. The important things to know, kind of the knees, the knee locks, and sort of the torso rotations are things you're looking for in this dance. Definitely a more challenging dance because it is a little bit slower than the other Latin dances, like a salsa or things like that. And so you can really notice when something's really ugly. And it's also just a dance that sort of moves a little bit more. You're still a slot dance, but you're moving a lot more. So a lot of things to look at here. But I mean, without bearing the lead, Chandler knocked it out of the park. Like I said, when I originally watched this dance, not knowing that they only had 5 minutes to prepare, I thought it was fine. But with the context of knowing that they had only 5 minutes to prepare, it actually made this a much more impressive dance. Her knee locks were pretty good.
Yeah.
Her torso rotation. There's a lot of Cuban motion, that figure eight I've talked about in previous recaps. That's really prevalent here. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, but really she had it going on. This
she had the attitude. She had the vibe. She embodied the dance.
Yep.
And again, I think because she knew the song, it was in her body. It was a fantastic performance. I usually don't enjoy watching cha-cha either. I think it's it's not my favorite dance to dance. It's not my favorite dance to watch. This was so fun. It was fun to watch. I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, so comfortable looking. And yeah, it was wonderful. And similar compliment I'll give to her that I gave to Steven. This was a legitimate routine. She wasn't just following her pro around. They had a long choreography, a long pattern that they had that was prepared and looked good, and it was at least 50% on her to execute her pieces, whereas Joey and Danny, they had to execute 20% of the dance, and Jenna and Whitney were gonna carry the other 80%.
Sure.
Steven and Chandler, they were 50-50 partners in performing these dances. And I think that alone. So I thought this was, without question, the best of the 4 instant dances. And I don't think it was particularly close.
Agree. So what's your score?
I'm with the rescore, 10.
Whoa, first 10 of the season.
For the record, I was giving her like, I was on the cusp between 8 and 9 without knowing it was an instant dance. Knowing that they had 5 minutes to prepare, she deserves a 10. It was I mean, and she, for me, won the night. I understand why people think she's the front runner.
She got a perfect
really
score
good
as well. So she got 2 perfect scores. She's incredible. It'd really take for anyone else to take this, they'd have to have a stronger fan base. And
is she likable? I don't watch any of the things. Is she likable, or is she?
Yeah, she's so sweet. Yeah, no, she's not in that.
Okay.
Category.
Yeah, I mean, she's a strong competitor. She's a wonderful dancer. It's pretty clear. I don't know what her background is with dance, but I understand why people are viewing her as a front runner. I think Joey is great. I think Joey could win this thing, but he's got to keep improving. I think he's had some great performances, but certainly seeing Chandler for the first time this evening, I was very impressed with her competencies and skills at this stage.
Amazing, really amazing. So I am going to say that we are done for the night, being that the clock just struck 12:01 a.m. Now then a new day has arrived. But we will be back next week. We will both be watching the full episode of Dancing with the Stars. Or no, do you like watching it blind?
I kind of like you knowing what's going on and me just
okay. So
I
will
like
watch
unmolested opinions, right? I want my opinions to be unsullied by pros.
Fine. So I will watch the full episode. You will watch all of the dances. And so we will be back giving our thoughts, our feedback, our critiques, our scores to the semifinals of Dancing with the Stars. So stay tuned for more and let us know what you thought of our feedback compared to the judges in the comments below. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.